about 2/3 through this part 3 and the phone rang. So let's start again. So we're in and around 2007, 2008. I have my my Collins Dreadnought DS2H, which has seen a lot of action. Probably been refretted at least once by then. I was playing in a bluegrass band called Hickory Junction. I'd been given the dobro by my friend, as I told you, and 2007, the contracts ran out and I decided to retire at age 59, and 2008 was my 60th year. So two things happened. One, I saw on eBay a National Style O Deluxe, which looked in perfect condition and looked beautiful, good photographs. Got into a dialogue with a chap who was a long way away, North Midlands somewhere, and he also had a tricone for sale, and so we got into dialogue and didn't like the idea of shipping, and I wasn't quite sure which of the two guitars he was selling I really wanted. And so he said, "Tell you what, I'll drive down, and I can make it a weekend. Bring my wife. We know the area. We like the area. But if you don't decide to buy one of them, that's fine. But would you pay for my petrol to come back, go down and come back, which was about £50–60. So I said, yes, absolutely fine. So he turned up on a Saturday morning after quite a long drive. And we hit it off straight away. Lovely chap, enormous guy with an enormous beard and an earring. It turned out to be a headmaster somewhere. Compared notes. It became quite obvious that he kind of really wanted to hold on to the tricone, and I really wanted the Stylo. So a deal was made. Paid him on the spot, probably by bank transfer, direct to his bank from mine, which is the best way to do transactions nowadays. And he went upon his way rejoicing, and I had this lovely Stylo. For my 60th birthday as such, I decided I was going to buy myself a guitar. What else? And I've been interested in having a Gibson style, a jumbo, but it had to be 12 fret with a wide neck. Now the only model that fitted that description was the Roy Smeck, which was only ever made by Gibson as a Hawaiian with a big square neck, but people like Jackson Browne and other people had found that if they had them converted to standard, they made a pretty outstanding instrument to be played Spanish style. Couldn't find anything appropriate, but Huss and Dalton had started to be imported into this country by a chap in a shop about 60–70 miles away from here. So I ordered one from him, specified the nut width and the string spacing and everything, and it turned up, and I actually collected it on my birthday, and there was something radically wrong with this guitar, and so I was taking it back almost every week to have him work adjustments and adjustments and adjustments. And the finish was getting damaged because it was so soft that if you pressed your thumb into it, or especially a fingernail, the finish split. But the action was terrible. Couldn't get it right. It wasn't playable. He was a very long-suffering dealer. I should have said no and take it back right away, but I couldn't believe an instrument that expensive could be this bad. So anyway, in the end that went away, and I lost a lot of money over that. In 2010, I found myself looking at eBay. I'm always looking at eBay, and I found another Collins 12 fret Dreadnought. And not many of them about. And here it was. And this is a DS1, and it was in Wales. So what's the difference between that one and that one? Well, it's got a mahogany back and sides, that's all. It's a 2008 model, and I bought it in 2010, So it was only 2 years old, and I watched it on eBay, and it didn't sell, and then he relisted it, and I thought, I want it. And so I started making contact, asked a few questions, and he said he'd never played it because he ordered it, but he ordered the wrong model. He wanted a 14 fret, and this was, I don't know whether that was true anyway, but nobody else was bidding on it. And so I finally bid the beginning of the auction price, and it went, and so we had another chat, and he was terribly upset because he really expected to get a lot more for it than he did from me. And then we had to investigate having it shipped to me, and the shipping was more expensive than he thought, so he was really quite upset about that. So he sent it to me, and it arrived absolutely perfect condition. Really was in showroom condition. There's not much of a mark on it now, and in fact I don't. One little dent there. It is a beautiful instrument, and that became my bluegrass guitar. Very, very loud, probably the loudest Collins I've got. Used it. It's already been refretted once, and I love it dearly. And I was so pleased with it when it turned up that I contacted him again to say thank you, and I sent him some more money to cover the shipping and a bit more. So that was another happy deal. I like happy deals. I'd rather pay a little bit more for something and have myself and the seller happy than trying to steal a deal. It's just not in me. That was 2010. What else happened in 2010? I wanted, in a safe place, I wanted a Robert Johnson style guitar. I couldn't find one, but one turned up on eBay, and it was made by a British guy who lived in Spain, and so a deal was made. He shipped it over. It was a nice little guitar. I've sold it now, but there is only a video elsewhere on my channel about it. Lovely little guitar, but I was deciding about that time that I wasn't really a blues man, and so I started this terrible habit of looking on eBay, and 2011, the next year, oh dear, another DS2H turned up. My original DS2H had some damage on the headstock, had some other damage, and it wasn't pristine, and this one looked to be. So anyway, I put a bid on it. Again, I was the only person to bid, and I got it, and I decided to make a weekend of it, so my wife and I went up to inspect it and pay for it after I'd seen it, and the guy who had it obviously didn't know how to look after a guitar. The action was far too high, but I was pretty sure that I could get it sorted out, and a deal was made, and it was in Norwich in Norfolk. And we went up, we booked a hotel which looked fine online, but it was pretty awful when we got there. And then on Saturday I was going to take Jane out for a really nice meal, but it was the night before Mother's Day, and so all the restaurants were absolutely full. So I ended up having a rough old pie and a pint in a rough old pub, and going back to a rough old hotel, and then an absolutely terrible journey home because the M25, which is the belt road as you would call it around London, was blocked with 2 or 3 accidents. Anyway, we got home, I got that. I'd been thinking about these jazz guitars, and I'd had some lessons from a guy who was trying to teach me swing guitar and American songbook type stuff. And the harmony was lovely, still had that, but I was wondering if and I got an Eastman AR 805. But he had a 1934 Gibson L-4, which this isn't. This is a 1934 Gibson L-4. So I contacted a specialist archtop guitar shop in Seattle, and I told them what sort of thing I was looking for. I knew the difference about Gibsons with a raised fretboard extension here, or the ones that were embedded into the neck. Didn't want one of those, I wanted one like this. And they told me about this 1934 L4. And so a deal was made. I wondered about the import costs and customs and excise charges and things. So I phoned them, they were extremely helpful, and they said, as it's that age, and can be proved to be that age, you don't need to pay excise tax and whatever. And so all he has to do is put this number clearly on it by the shipment, and we can use that, and that'll save you a lot of money. Thank you very much, Mr. Customs and Excise man. So they shipped it, but they didn't put the number on, and so it cost me a lot more money than it was supposed to. I couldn't refuse it, couldn't send it back or anything like that, and I talked to them about this, and they said, oh, we were just trying to save you some money. Well, it cost me a lot more money, and they didn't tell me about a few things wrong with it, like the fact that they said they'd set it up, but they'd filed the frets down, so it was virtually unplayable, so I had to have it refretted. But it's a beautiful instrument. If you like 1934 archtops, does that job. I have not been worthy of it because you know, my swing stuff, my Western swing notions have never really come to, but I fall in love with archtops as such. Where are we? L4, yes. The other thing, I saw on American eBay, a 12-string. I had a Martin D12 35, which was battered to hell. I bought it very, very cheap, but it did look very much the worse for wear, and it let me down in a gig. One of the strings came through the bridge plate in the middle of a song at the start of a gig, which was very unfortunate. So I was looking for something else, and this was probably brought to my knowledge by some comments about it on the unofficial Martin guitar forum, saying they say it's a D1220, but it looks like a D35. Is it a Chinese knockoff and things like that? And so I looked at it on eBay, and I got into a dialogue, as I always do, with a person that was selling it. He told me the story, that it had been rebuilt by Martins. It was a 1964 model, rebuilt in 1998. I told him about all the controversy about it and why he wasn't getting any offers or inquiries about it. And so we came to a deal, and he shipped it over to the UK for me, and it came in perfect condition. It's a wonderful 12-string, and it's a one-off because it's got a truss rod. It's a D1220 with 35 trim. It's got an adjustable truss rod in it, and it's got an ebony fretboard and bridge and all sorts of stuff. Lovely. The only thing that was not up to scratch with it was the 1964 tuners, which I have changed over and got some replacement tuners from Blazer and Henks in Germany. So I've got 3 Collings Dreadnoughts. That's enough for anyone, isn't it? And then I saw a 4th one on eBay, and it was a sunburst one. I have to say, I'm not absolutely crazy about Collings Sunburst, but it was a sunburst one, and it was a DS1, and it had an Adirondack top. I had opened up a bit of a dialogue, but I decided it was just too silly. I didn't need a 4th one. And a friend who is also a member of the Acoustic Guitar Forum and a few other forums, he bought it in part of a trade. He sold the seller something that they wanted, and he got this. And so he contacted me and said, Andrew, I've got that DS1 ASB that I understand you'd talked to the seller about. I said, well, yeah, didn't he? So he said, well, now I've got it. I'm going to be near you in a week or so. Shall I bring it over and show it to you? Yeah, okay. Of course, he left without it, and I left with, and he took some of my money, and I don't regret it a bit. It's a beautiful instrument. So I've now got 4 Collings Dreadnoughts, 12 fret dreadnoughts, and they all work perfectly. This one has a K&K pickup in it, which I've used once, and I haven't had much. Oh yes, I did have a little bit of maintenance work. If anything starts looking as if it needs doing, get it done is my motto. So it's fine. So there we are. So that we're up to 2012 now. 2014. I was quite peeved about that Roy Smeck business with Huss and Dalton and all that sort of thing. And I went to a bluegrass week and I saw one chap playing a Santa Cruz Roy Smeck. And I asked him if I could have a look at it. He showed me, I played it, and I thought, yes, this is quite nice. So I started looking for Santa Cruz RSs. They're not allowed to use the name Roy Smeck. Probably Gibson owns that. And I finally found one in New Hampshire, Northern Lights Music. And I made contact with a chap, spoke about it, got a description, ummed and ahed about it for a long time, maybe three months or more. And then looked at the bank balance, looked at the savings accounts and thought, yeah, I'm going to go for it. Do I need this? Absolutely not. No, it's not going to be, it's not going to replace my dreadnoughts or anything like that. This is when I start turning into a collector, I think. You may laugh at that. So I phoned him up and I said, hi, that Roy Smeck, I've decided I'd like to, and he stopped me. He said, would you believe it, after all this time, I've just received an order and payment for it online about an hour ago. Boom. So the day I decided to finally buy it, after delaying for so long, it was sold. Okay, he said, but the good news is that I can order you one to your specs. You can have anything you like, any woods, any embellishments that you like. And he said, you know, they'll make them in about 6 months. Oh, okay, well, I'll have a think. Well, I have to think about what I want if I'm going to do that. So I had a think and delayed for quite a while. And then I saw a Santa Cruz RS from somewhere around New Hampshire, somewhere in that area, for a Roy Smeck. Made contact with the person, and it was exactly the same one. He said, I bought it because I loved the look of it, always wanted something like that, but it's too thick and it really hurts my shoulder and I can't get on with it. And so I decided to sell it. But he didn't want to sell it outside the United States for understandable reasons, complications of shipping abroad, and a lot of Americans don't understand the concepts of shipping abroad. I know about that. In the end, I convinced him. I paid his asking price, so he was happy. He investigated the shipping for me, did it, it arrived, absolutely no problems, and here it is. When I got it, it was so unplayed. Oh, there's one little tiny fault on the fretboard. There's a little dimple there, which he was very concerned that I was fully aware of, which was the right thing to do. But it makes absolutely no difference, and I can't feel it at all when I'm playing. When I got it, it felt pretty tight, and so I actually used a tone right on it quite a bit, and because it's so deep, perhaps it's one of those things, one of those guitars that you don't hear so much when you're playing it. But a little while ago I had a friend over who's a beautiful guitarist. I mean, he plays guitar beautifully. He played it for me and I've fallen in love with it. I use it sometimes on solo spots, but if I'm playing in my trio, I really need my dreadnoughts. But there you are. So that's a great acquisition to my collection of 12 fret guitars, which of course, when they need to be sold, no one will want 12 fret guitars. I traded my style. I think that's enough to go on for. We'll have a break now. So that's the end of part 3. If you're still alive and breathing, thank you very much for for watching, and I'll see you down the line. Thanks a lot. Bye.